And, despite the fact that today is the day of the election, it's like I really don't have a lot to say about politics specifically, just because, in part, maybe because you can hear that probably like anywhere else. And, you will probably listen to it anywhere else. So I'm not going to do a whole segment on I thought it maybe would be interesting just to talk about final reflection, I guess, on the whole campaign season before, the end and before things get violent or whatever. But I didn't really want to do that. So I thought maybe I would just talk about, though, something related to politics that I saw that kind of sums up a bit about how I feel about this whole campaign season. So I don't know, maybe people will find it interesting, but I just wanted to talk about it. So, as usual, it seems that someone, and there's kind of a pattern of this, in Trump's orbit, I guess, made a comment that was obviously not good, and Republicans are kind of being forced to defend it, which is, of course, the whole, and this is a few weeks old at this point, but floating island of garbage comment by that Tony Hinchcliffe guy. Or I don't know if that's exactly his name. I mean, I never even heard of him before this whole thing, but I'm not going to read the whole thing or go into the whole thing because you've probably heard it already. But I'm just going to say, okay, you can say it's a joke. You can say this shouldn't be an important issue. You can say that the Democrats or whatever have said worse, whatever. So fine, you can say all those things to say it's not important. But I will say if you're trying to actually defend the comment as the merit of what he said was correct or something, I mean you might want to think about it for a second and realize just what you're defending. But that's all I can say about that particularly. I mean, there is pretty much no one defending the comment as is, so I guess maybe that's not a controversial take. But anyway, as you would probably expect on CNN, there was a debate about it from Mehdi Hassan, I believe that's how you say his name correctly, and this guy Ryan James Girdusky, who I guess is a conservative commentator or something. But they were debating just the rally at Madison Square Garden in general, and of course, there were a lot of other comments that were made that were not great. So that's obviously, we can take from that what you will, I guess. But you can guess who took what side. So I'm not going to directly say it, just based on Mehdi Hassan. I mean, I think a lot of people have heard of him, but he's a general, I think, left wing type of media personality. So you can guess where they stood on this. So according to Forbes, it got to a point where Hassan said Girdusky keeps calling him an anti-Semite because that was brought up because he supports Palestine. And out of all the possible responses he could have gone, there are plenty, there are hundreds, thousands probably possible responses. Girdusky chose to say, yeah, well, I hope your beeper doesn't go off. And that was apparently referencing an attack using exploding pagers in Lebanon, which was to target Hezbollah that Israel was doing. And I wasn't really aware of this whole thing until recently, but that was something that happened. Well, the show went to commercial, and when it came back, they were both gone. And it was there was a lot of question about whether they were both asked to leave or it was just Girdusky was asked to leave. And it was later confirmed that just Girdusky was asked to leave, but Hassan chose to leave as well. I mean, I really don't need to explain why this was a bad comment to make. I feel like I don't have to, but apparently I kind of do because, someone still said it. I mean, you're going to say it just because some people, just because you disagree with the guy, you're going to make a joke about him, dying. And again, I know people say, oh, you're too easily offended if you think he was seriously saying he should die. Yeah, okay, I'm sure he was not literally saying he wants this guy to die, but you're gonna say that just because you're losing in an argument. And even when people say, "Well, it was a joke," okay, so a joke is a good thing to put here in serious conversation. I mean, it seems like a losing argument to me when you're going to start trying to goof and joke on a guy you're losing an argument with and saying stuff like that. I mean, I don't see how you can take it really any other way, and how that cannot be racist. But I guess that's now the opinions that I guess conservatives are kind of trying to push right now about this. Because shortly after the broadcast, CNN released a statement that said in part, I'm quoting here, there is zero room for racism or bigotry at CNN or on our air. We will not allow guests to be demeaned or for the line of civility to be crossed. Ryan Girdusky will not be welcome back at our network. Yeah, that was probably the right move. I mean, to say he can't come back. And of course, there's the whole comment of, oh, it's censorship or whatever, which is a pretty obvious response that you see from this. And if you want to call it censorship, I guess it depends on your definition of censorship. But to say it was, I hate when people use that as the First Amendment's being violated. That's not what that means, right? The First Amendment being violated. I mean, the First Amendment just says you cannot get arrested for saying. I feel like people have to keep repeating this over and over because people keep forgetting. But it's true. I mean, that's literally by definition not a violation of the First Amendment. Of course, that's how a lot of these kind of people take it, but whatever. And I don't know, maybe we're at a point where finally less people are saying that, but that seems to be the usual response. Well, instead of apologizing or walking it back or doing something that makes logical sense. Girdusky posted a tweet saying it's a joke, and he tries like both sides the whole thing. There used to be a time, it wasn't even so long ago that I can't remember it, where if you say stuff like that, if you wanted to continue in your career, you apologized for it like right after. And again, I know people look at some of this as like, well, it's a good thing we don't have that anymore because freedom of speech and more saying what you mean and all that. Yeah, okay, well, I guess to me, I mean, maybe it's just people like me who disagree, but that's not a good thing that we're past that point. Especially as like tribalism in terms of if your side said it, you're going to defend it. So the tribalism of like Republicans defending it because their side said it, it's kind of prevented this from happening. There's not going to be a point where we probably go back to that in the near future where you have to apologize for something stupid that you say. Like, I mean, you can't just say, oh, well, the other side does this and get away with it. But whatever. I guess we're at a point where, the whole, and that's another thing where people complain about like the First Amendment or whatever you want to say about how like we need increased strength with the First Amendment. I mean, we're clearly at the maximum point for that right now because you can say whatever you want and have no consequences for it. So that's wonderful. We have finally reached freedom of speech with freedom of consequences. It seems like. So, yeah, I mean, this is the beautiful era for free speech that we live in right now. And of course, because I mean, it has to be like boiled down to. Of course, like I'm not against actual free speech. I don't want restrictions on the First Amendment. I don't think the Constitution should be changed. I don't think anything like that. But I mean, I don't know. I guess I'm just a little bit disturbed that I feel like I'm the only one who looks at what's happening with the First Amendment and all that, and the way people are abusing it, and now, people just say whatever they want without thinking. It seems like a lot because and they use the First Amendment as a crutch, as a bad thing. But that's the time period we're in. So, I can't say for sure who's going to win the election because it's pretty much 50-50 based on most of the polls. I mean, maybe slight edge to one person, slight edge to other people. I mean, I've gone both ways. There were points where I thought Trump was going to win, points where I thought Kamala was going to win. So I'm not going to say who I think is going to win or anything like that right now. I can't see the future. And by tonight, maybe we'll know. Maybe we'll have an answer for you. I doubt by tonight, probably maybe by sometime tomorrow. But whoever does win, I'll say they're not going to change that I can guarantee if your only concern is free speech or saying whatever you want all the time without worrying about consequences for it. Well, the good news is that's probably going to be continuing for the foreseeable future. So whoever you're voting for, you won in that regard. So congratulations.